Flip, 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 Flip Weekly.
Hello and welcome to the Flip Weekly podcast. My name is Matt. I am your host. This is a podcast all about reselling. We go to garage sales, thrift stores, Facebook Marketplace, and we try and find items that we can resell for a profit. Now, it is Thursday, the 26th of March 2026, and I've had a shit week with buyers. I mean, don't get me wrong. We've had sales that have blown me away. We have a single sale for $700, which I'm giving myself major props to for even finding this thing. A lot of people wouldn't. A lot of people would leave it behind or see it for what it is. I thought outside of the box and it paid off in under 90 days. We also go to Vinnie's and we find probably the most expensive item in the entire store, an item worth $500. Plus, we have a lot more. We're picking up clothes for the first time in a while, even though I have a really bad history of fucking them up. We have an exploration of Dr. Seuss and what you should be buying and what you should be leaving behind. We have our average sale price up to $140. It's a good week. We've had shitty experiences with buyers, but let's not get down over that. It's been a good week. First, let me tell you about this buyer that I've had an issue with. Your boy has needed to bite his tongue, because if I didn't bite my tongue, I would have let loose. You'll remember in December last year, I found a Hannah Montana CRT TV on Facebook Marketplace. It was bright purple. It had a built-in DVD player, Hannah Montana insignia all around it. I mean, the software on this TV, you go to a loading screen and there's a Hannah Montana screensaver. This thing would be a holy grail for any sort of Disney Channel Hannah Montana fan. I paid $40 for it and I had it listed up for $2,000 on eBay. $2,000, and I paid $40 for it. We had hundreds of viewers. We had over 50 people watching it, and on Friday I received my very first 4-figure offer on it. It was 8 a.m. in the morning. I hear the eBay, the little notification sound. It says, new offer, $1,000 for Hannah Montana Disney CRT TV. I'm thinking it over and I decide to accept it. It's $40 into $1,000 in 90 days. I consider that a win, and really who knows how long I would have to wait for it to sell at full price. It may never sell at full price. I'm going off comps, but in this economy, $1,000 for a television is still a lot of money. But what followed was essentially a weekend of absolute torment. Just like anybody else that's really bad with money, I see that $1,000 offer come in, I accept it, and then I immediately start spending that money. I'm buying things. I know that I have $1,000 coming in, even though this person hasn't paid, and I'm just like spending it all. So I sent a message to this person about 10 minutes after I accepted the offer saying, and I quote, "Hello, thanks so much for your order. If you can please make payment as soon as possible, I'll have this packed up and ready to be shipped. Thanks." Followed by my name, Matt. Now they replied 25 minutes later, and I quote, "Thank you. Absolutely. I am Melbourne. Just confirming this includes shipping, in shipping, arranged until T." Now obviously that doesn't make any fucking sense. This person has sent a message before, first of all, proofreading it, and second of all, finishing what they were trying to say. So I do my best to interpret this. I've worked with people before. I know how to interpret when an idiot speaks to me. So I reply 2 minutes later saying, and I quote, "When you check out, you'll be able to see the total cost including shipping. I'll have it packaged in a large box with lots of bubble wrap and foam if required." So I'm answering a question about shipping. I think they haven't really looked into the shipping cost, even though it's all there on the item. I'm not giving free shipping for a fucking television that's really, really heavy. The shipping quote is going to be different depending on where they are. So they reply about 10 minutes later saying, "Thanks, Matt. One last question. Does this include a remote?" And look, at this point in time, I realize I shouldn't have been spending any money because this person is not going to commit to this order. If you've sent through $1,000 offer and you are only just asking questions now, then you are not going to be a committed buyer. I know that for a fact. This person isn't going to buy. So I go back over my listing, and of course I've written in the description it doesn't come with a remote. So I send them a message saying, as noted in the description, no remote is included. That was at 10 a.m. Now, our conversation at this point in time was back and forth, back and forth. There's no real long delays. The day turns into night. This person hasn't checked out. No payment has been made. My hope of receiving my $1,000 is quickly diminishing. Well, I mean, it has diminished. It really has. I was speaking to my mum that day on the phone, and I was saying to her, you know, I was essentially saying to her what I wanted to say to this person who makes an offer for $1,000 without properly reading the description, checking out the shipping costs. You are either insanely rich that you don't need to know this information and you just spend money like this willy-nilly, or, and this is the most likely scenario, the person is a dumb cunt. So the day ends and there's no payment made. The next day, I sent her a message saying, hi, and then I used her first name as almost as a way to get her attention. I can see it in the order summary. Even though the order hasn't been made yet, eBay still gives us the eBay username plus the person's first and last name. Don't address her as first and last name. I just use her first name. I'm just going to fucking say it. I just say, hi Eliza, will you be making payment this morning? That was at 10 a.m. I don't receive anything for the entire day. It's getting late. It's like 6 p.m., 6:30 p.m. I send a follow-up message saying, or at all. You know, I have pretty much written this off at the moment. I don't believe I'm going to get paid for this, so I'm not really being careful with my words. Really, I wanted to say a lot more than this. I wanted to say a lot more, but I bit my tongue. The next day, she sends me a message saying, not without a remote. My apologies, I did not see the full description. And that was it. So she sent through $1,000 offer for a television. She hasn't read the description. There's no remote in any of the photos, but the remote apparently is a deal breaker for this holy grail Hannah Montana CRT TV. Good fucking luck finding this exact TV with the remote for anything less than $1,000, which is what you're going to pay. So I don't know what this person is doing. I don't know if they're a genuine buyer. I haven't left them feedback yet, but I really fucking want to. I don't even know if eBay will let me leave feedback for technically an order that wasn't complete. Does eBay do that? You know what? If they're allowing me to do this, I'm going to leave this person feedback. I'm going to tell her exactly how annoying this is, how frustrating it is. Not so much that I've already spent the money that was supposed to be coming in, more so the fact that this thing had so many views and watches that those people have just disappeared. Although I guess you could make the argument if they really wanted this TV, they saw that it had sold, they could just search for the new one. Yeah, that's true. But still, it just pisses me off. It's like, it's building. Somebody comes in, makes a stupid mistake because of their ignorance, and that's gone. So it's just frustrating when people make these mistakes, and I don't understand why eBay has this option of people to make an offer without funding it, you know? Like, why isn't there a option where if somebody accepts the order, accepts the offer, they must immediately pay for it? Why do they get 3 days or whatever eBay gives them to make the payment? If they're buying it, they need to pay for it right now. You don't go into Woolworths or Coles, pick up your groceries, and then come back 3 days later to make payment. If you send an offer, you must pay for it instantly. If you accept an offer, you must pay for it instantly. There's no mulling it over. You don't get to decide after you've done that, no, I don't want this item. Because you're just wasting fucking time. You're a stain on the community. You're a fucking stain on the eBay community. And you know, even if eBay does allow me to leave feedback for this bitch, you can't leave negative feedback, so it's going to show up as positive. How does that help sellers in the future? Is that not the stupidest fucking rule? I should be able to leave negative feedback saying, this person wasted my time. Do not accept any offers from her. You know what? I went onto her eBay profile and I saw she was selling looked like some piece of medical equipment for like $13,000. You know how close I was to going on there and making an offer and doing the exact same thing to her? It sounds really petty, and like this shouldn't be bothering you as much as it is. But I feel very fucking vindictive and petty against people that waste my time like this. That I want to go in and, you know, I don't want to be like, I'll ruin your fucking life, but I want to create, you know, a little time waster in your life. Yes, it wastes my time too. My time wasted again. But just let me fucking get you back, man. Just let me get you back. Anyway, I guess my retribution is just going to be like essentially a strongly worded letter, which is going to be seen by nobody except, it might not even be seen by her. How often is she going to be checking her eBay feedback? Anyway, it doesn't really matter. The TV just goes back on the market. I thought I had myself, a cheeky $40 into a $1,000 sale, but the joke's on me for getting excited about a sale, right? Joke's on fucking me. Let's leave that behind because we did actually have a really good week. So how did the week start? Well, the week started with a trip to Vinnie's, and this is my local Vinnie's. And isn't it the best feeling when you go into your local op shop and you just see items that you know are going to be worth a lot of money? You don't have to drive all over the place to different op shops. You know your local one. You know all those different nooks and crannies. You're in your element. You know what's new, what's not new. And the best thing is, if you find nothing, you're close to home, so you don't have time to contemplate your entire existence. Like, what the fuck am I doing? I know I do that when I'm doing my rounds and I'm 30 minutes away from home and I pick up nothing. And I'm thinking, what am I doing? I should be at home, not doing this shit. Regardless, we did really well at the local Vinnie's. So we came across what appears to be a former aviation enthusiasts collection of model airplanes. Now, these model airplanes are supposed to have stands and they're supposed to be displayed on desks. This is one of those items where I don't remember seeing them in the past, but once I saw these and I knew about them, I started seeing them everywhere. I'm watching a new television show at the moment called For All Mankind. It's an alternate history, drama where the Russians get to the moon first. It's on Apple TV. And I remember seeing this week a scene inside of NASA, and one of the flight directors have a model airplane on one of these stands on his desk. And I'm like, what are the fucking odds that I see it in real life and then I see it on the fucking show? There's a word for that when that happens, right? The ones that I found in Vinnie's didn't have the stands, but I found there was at least 5, right? And the first thing I did when I spotted them was I went up and I picked them up. Now, what I'm doing is essentially trying to work out if they're heavy. If they're light, I would usually associate that with not being worth much money, but if they're heavy, that could be a potential payday. So I lifted them up one by one, and you know what? They were heavy. These must have been at least 1 kilo per plane, if not more. That has to be, what is that, metal? Has to be some sort of metal. But I don't get my hopes up just yet. I'm taking a look at them a bit closer after I'm picking them up, and some of them are yellowing, others have propellers missing. By the looks of it, they all were going to be mounted on bases. They had little screw holes in the bottom of them, no screws, no stands. I guess over the years, something just happened to them. And I take a few photos and I use Google Lens and I continue walking throughout Vinnie's because at that point in time, I wasn't too excited about them. I just got distracted. I didn't see an immediate ka-ching, so I was like, well, let's just take a photo and I'll look them up as I'm going around. And right next to these model airplanes was the men's clothing rack. And I flicked through it. I'm doing what I usually do. And I found something that looked to be worth a bit of money and something I've never ever picked up before. And it was a long sleeve Wrangler t-shirt. Wrangler, of course, that cowboy brand. You picture the person wearing this is sitting on a horse all day with his cowboy hat on, maybe a rope in one hand. I don't know what they do with the rope. In 2026, surely there's a better way of, what are they even doing, lassoing? What do they lasso? Cows? Are you lassoing a cow one by one? There has to be a better way. What do you do after you lasso? You certainly don't hang the fucking thing. What do you do after you lasso? You literally drag it by its neck with a piece of rope. I'm sure there would be a better way to get a cow to come with you, right? I don't understand, country, if that's a way to say that. Anyway, the person that would be wearing this shirt, that is what they would be doing, on their weekday. Or they would be some sort of cosplayer for cowboy shirts. I don't know, it's fucking weird. Anyway, the thing that stood out to me was that it had a print on the front, on the back, and all over the arms. So this is a Wrangler all over print t-shirt. So that's essentially what I'm looking at the moment. I pick it up, it's really heavy, and I can see the buttons on it are the pearl snap buttons. And they're the buttons that, they're not the traditional button that goes through a loop. These things snap together. So we have all of this, and it's screaming to me that it's expensive. It's only $10. I don't usually do this type of clothing, but if something that looks this valuable just jumps out to me, of course I'm going to pick it up. You know, I'm still hesitant to really get into clothing because there's people in that niche and they completely dominate it. You know, they live and breathe vintage clothing, different types of brands. I really don't know that much about it. I can spot different tags, different logos, different types of stitching, but really at the end of the day, I don't know that much. And combine that with the fact once you get these home, I'm really bad at taking photos because I don't know how to iron. I don't have one of those steam cleaner things that straighten it out. I've seen IKEA has this new, looks like a blow up inflatable ironing apparatus. Looks cool. I don't know if I'll ever fucking use it, but there's just so much that goes into clothing that in a way I put it in my too hard basket. You know, if I'm buying a jersey, I take a photo of the front and the back and they don't wrinkle. You know, this it's basically like I don't want to, I mean, it sounds like I don't want to put in the work, and that is true. But at the same time, I just don't know how to do a lot of that sort of stuff. And you need to do lots of measuring. You have to measure the different seams, the arm lengths. You have to make sure there's no stains. And if there are stains, you need to know what they are. And if you can't identify them, then that's fucking disgusting. You know, there's just a lot that goes into clothing. And at the end of the day, you know, if I'm buying jerseys and selling them for hundreds of dollars, and you'll see later on I sold a vintage t-shirt from, I think it was like 1997, and it didn't sell for any more than a jersey. So I was like, what are you doing? We'll talk about that a bit later. The Wrangler t-shirt, I couldn't find any active or sold comps. So what I did is something that I recommend you do too if you find something like this. I consulted a Facebook group. And I typed Wrangler into Facebook groups and I came across a Facebook group called Wrangler Brush Popper Buy, Sell and Trade. Now, I went through this group to make sure it wasn't just brush popper shirts. Now, I guess this is a type of Wrangler shirt. This group seemed to be at one point dedicated to this shirt, but now people are just posting any sort of Wrangler bullshit in there. So I thought, well, let's chuck my bullshit in there. Posted 2 photos and I said, found in a thrift store for $10. Anybody know anything about it? And then since I did that, there's over 100 likes. There's 20 comments. There's people with their quote unquote realistic prices. This is an American group, so all of their realistic prices are in USD. And once converted, they seem to be worth about, $60 to $80. That's what these Yanks were saying. So knowing what we know about Facebook, you can assume that there's going to be a premium added on top for eBay sales. And then we have to add on our Australia tax. This seems like it could be sold for between $100 and $150. And I didn't respond to any of those offers on the group. People are asking, I'd be interested if you sell it to me, I'll buy it for this. I just didn't because they're all from the US and I can't be bothered dealing with that tariff stuff. Maybe it's the only market for this type of shirt. Maybe in America is the only place where they still ride horses and they lasso cows. I'd rather just take a chance listing it on eBay. That's really how much I don't want to get into US shipping right now. But anyway, I get this t-shirt and then we go back to the model airplanes. I take another look at them. Some were priced $9, others were priced $18. The more expensive ones, the $18, they were the planes that had less broken parts. And I think, why did Vinny's price them like this? So I look up the first one on Google Lens and I can see some listings around $58, they're Amazon links. This is what you get when you look this item up. And here's the thing. Google Lens struggles to identify the models. Technology has failed Vinny's. Just think, these are model airplanes on stands that are meant to be displayed on your desk. Think of the variation of pricing that you can get for these. You could probably get one from Temu. You could get one, you can't get one from Kmart, but you can get different sorts, They range from cheap to expensive, whatever. So technology has failed Vinny's, but the thing is, if they weren't relying on Google Lens, and look, these are all just assumptions, but That's how I'm telling this story. All Vinny's had to do was put the phone down and just look. Just look at this fucking thing. Because I wouldn't be surprised if you told me that we bought the most expensive item in Vinny's again. You turn this thing over, there are artist markings on it. It says made in Holland by, and I'm going to butcher this guy's name because he's Dutch, Matthias Verkel. All of the models were stamped and signed by this creator, this Matthias M. Verkel. So what we have now are very heavy model airplanes plus this artist mark. So this is looking good. And I'm still in Vinny's and I search on eBay for this guy's name and the results are blowing me away. There are sold listings. I mean, the latest ones, the 3 latest sales were for $1,008, $543, $845 on bid. These are all different types of airplanes. There's not one that's the same. You know, there's a Lockheed C5, there's a Cessna jet, there's a, what's that, a DC-10 National Airlines. This really doesn't mean that much to me. I'm not an aviation guy. I have had a single lesson in a small Cessna airplane, but that's really where my interest and knowledge ends with planes. When you find something in a thrift store and it's worth over $100, I don't know about you, but I immediately don't believe it. I'm like, nah, that's not right. If your thought process when you're looking up something in a thrift store and it's worth over $100, being like, oh, great. And it's not just immediate, no, that's not right, I need to like look into this more, then you need to be a bit more skeptical, okay? So what happens is I buy the fucking Wrangler t-shirt for $10 and I leave Vinny's. I'm out the door, man. I'm sitting in the car and I'm doing a bit more research. I don't turn the car on and I fucking sneak into my car because I don't want any cunts to drive up that street, see me get into the car, and then wait for my park. I fucking can't stand that because I'll rush whatever I'm doing so the other person doesn't get annoyed. So I'm choosing to get annoyed myself to make this other person happy. It's fucking, I hate doing that, man. So I sneak into my car and I'm looking on eBay. I'm doing my research to try and find out more about this guy, more about this creator. I need to look at the sell-through rate for these pieces on eBay. You know, it's all well and good for something to sell for $1,000, but if it's going to take 6 years, I'm not going to bother with it, right? We look at the active listings. We have 18. The lowest price, $310 in the USA. Sold listings, 16. Now, that's a very, very good sell-through rate. Like, this isn't one model being sold every 6 years or even every 90 days. This is close to 1-to-1. So I'm thinking, screw it, I'm going back in. I don't care that I have to go to the register twice and look like a fucking idiot. I look over all the models and I decide to buy the one that I think looks the most expensive. Again, there are no active or sold listings for any of these, so I take a gamble. I choose one that looks the most like it's a military aircraft because I assumed that military is going to be worth more money. I ended up being completely wrong, but I chose a Lockheed Hercules L120. Now that cost me $18, and this airplane came with what looked to be a nice tobacco stain colorway. And really all I can tell you about this plane is that it had a red stripe going down it, it had 4 propellers, and apart from that it just looks like a plane. Okay, so I buy it for $18. I get home and I need to do a bit more research on who this guy is. So I look up Matthias Verkel and I find out that he was a Dutch maker of these high-end metal airplane desk models. And he wasn't doing this just for fun. This wasn't a side hustle for him. He was doing this because he was contacted by airlines, manufacturers over 50 years ago because they saw just how good his craftsmanship was. Like, this shit is old. The guy's passed away. You know, he's been dead for a while. But to this day, these models, they're so insanely collectible. And if you can imagine the market for this type of item, they're worth a lot of money. Because pilots, first of all, they get paid a lot. The training involved is tedious and it's expensive. If you need to get your hours, it's going to cost you fucking tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's a lot of money. So once you go through that rigorous process, you start making your money. For some reason, you're going to want to collect airplanes. Or I guess if you're not a pilot and you're really into them and you realize, well, I'll never own a real one, I guess I'll buy the small ones. I don't want to get into the heads of collectors. I don't know how they think. But I'm just trying to imagine who the end customer is going to be. So without seeing any active or sold listings for this exact aircraft, I literally don't know if it's going to be one of the cheaper models, like the $300, or it's going to be like one of the rarer ones, which are worth double or triple or a bit more than that. I see in some online groups that the yellowing is an indication of the age, and collectors have said that they don't want that covered up. So obviously it's quite old, and of course when it comes to old shit, don't try and restore it yourself. Now we have to deduct a few dollars because it doesn't have the original stand, but we're going to charge a premium considering it is old, it survived this long, it doesn't have any damage to it besides missing the stand. So I turned then to Facebook groups, just like I did with the Wrangler t-shirt, and for whatever reason I'm not accepted into them. I don't know why. Maybe my profile picture looks like I can't afford these models, which is very, very true. But from there I head over to WorthPoint, and I know I don't want to pay for historical data. It fucking pisses me off that WorthPoint's even a thing. I should be able to see all of these sold listings on eBay. They shouldn't just restrict it to 90 days. But luckily for me, and this is a little tip for you, is if you create a new email address, WorthPoint doesn't care if you sign up using the same credit card. The only thing is I have to remember to cancel my subscription before the free 7-day trial ends. And right now, I still have 3 days left. I'm pretty sure I'm going to forget to do it because I was going to do it when I was, preparing, and I realized I hadn't canceled it yet. But I'm like, well, what if I need to use my last 3 lookups before the subscription ends? Because if you end the subscription, WorthPoint just cancels it straight away. It doesn't do what most other subscription platforms do, where you have access to it until the trial ends. It just ends there and then. So I think I'm playing it a bit dangerous by waiting. You'll know next week if I've forgotten to cancel it and I get fucking charged. So on WorthPoint I can see that there's 2 of these exact models that have sold. The first model had most of the propeller blades broken off, and the sale price for that one was $299. And the second one was described as being in perfect condition as that one, and that one sold for $300 US. So virtually the same price. Both are selling for $300 regardless of the condition. So that gives us a pretty good idea of what it's worth. Now, I don't know about you. You might be one of those resellers that's like, well, I'm going to put it up for 300 USD. Maybe do a discount at 250 USD. I'm the fucking opposite. I'm chucking this up for 350 USD, which is 500 Australian dollars. Because without my listing, this doesn't exist. And if a cashed up pilot wants a Verkle and wants this exact model, they're going to have to go through me and they're going to have to pay for it. And you know what? After 12 hours of having it live, we have 5 cashed up pilots watching it. Will they buy it? Will they send through an offer? Will I accept anything less? We'll just have to wait and see. But that is an $18 purchase, most likely going to turn into $500 fucking dollars. Now, since then, I've looked into the niche a bit more. It's actually quite easy to buy replacement propellers and replacement stands. They do cost a bit, but in hindsight, I could have bought all of those planes. I could have paid maybe $50 up front, all those models in Vinnies, followed by a few $100s in repairs, and I could have made a return in the thousands. I legitimately think that. Now look, I'm completely fine with what happened. I left some behind. I only took one. But what about you? What do you think? Would you have bought them all? Would you have just left the broken ones behind? Would you have taken a gamble? Because the thing is, the ones that were priced at $9, even though they're broken, there's still the fuselage, there's still the wings, all of that was intact. It was just the propellers. And that would be worth more than $9, more than $18. Even if you flip them locally for 50, for 100, they would still be the cheapest Verkles on the market. So yeah, maybe I should have bought them all, but what do you reckon? Would you have bought them all? But yeah, amazing find. Speaking of planes, let's get this next one out of the way. So, as you'll know, I'm an uncle now. I have 2 nieces and a nephew. I love them very much. But do I love them enough to be spending what Fisher-Price is asking for the Little People series? Like, I know now that Fisher-Price's Little People series is not made for people with little money. It's made for big people with big money. You may or may not be familiar with it. They're just plastic toys for kids. They're maybe like 7cm figures, 10cm figures. They come in a range of different colors, shapes, sizes. I mean, you can go onto the Kmart website. They have a Fisher-Price Little People Animal Farm playset. And it's just like some chickens, some cows, some pigs, the people, and a barn. They want $80 for that. That's not vintage. That's not new old stock. That's just currently for sale in Kmart. Another one, a 7-piece tractor work set. They want $59 for it. All of this shit is like $5 in plastic and cardboard manufacturing costs. Probably landed in Australia too. Like, this stuff isn't cheap. So when I was at Salvo's this week, I came across this Fisher-Price Travel Together airplane. First thing I did when I saw it was I turned it over and I looked for a date. I could see it was from 2017. I thought, great, this must be worth a bit by now. It's brand new, still in its packaging. It was 2 people, a pilot and a little girl, and an airplane that you pressed a button, it made some sounds, it lit up. Cool. Now, I don't really know the secondhand market for little people. Are people collecting this stuff? Is it new parents buying toys? Maybe they resemble their careers and they're buying that shit for their kids. I don't know. Maybe there's no other Little People airline sets. I don't know, because when I searched for this set and I filtered it as brand new, we have 7 active listings, 9 sold listings. So that's a great sell-through rate. The sold listings are fucking bonkers. The most recent sold listing for brand new, $155. Just for this plane and the 2 figures, man, in its original packaging. I get it's from 2017, but do you really need to add this to your collection? If you're familiar with children, they're going to play with it for 30 seconds and move on to the next flashing object. Or a fucking iPad. So that right now, the cheapest you can get this toy brand new in the US is for $72.88. If you want it here in Australia, it's going to cost over $150. So with the sell-through rate sitting at 128%, people are actively buying this set for whatever reason. I have no idea. And I do know a lot of resellers are having really good luck with the loose Little People figures. So I guess I'm just going to jump onto the bandwagon and hope to turn this $15 Little People set into $150. Now, a couple other finds for the week. I was doing the post and there's a Vinnie's right next to this post office, so I ducked in. And I found 2 really cool things. The first one, I mean, it wasn't really cool, this first one. CSI Vegas, the complete series. It's a DVD. I have no idea how many fucking CSI shows there are. They all blend together. To be honest, most of those shows blend together for me. We broke one of them down several weeks ago. What was that, NCIS? How many fucking spin-offs of CSI are there? I have no idea, but CSI Vegas, it only ran for 3 seasons. Which is a bit fucking ironic considering it's a show about murders and crimes, and Nevada, the US state, is ranked number 1 as the most dangerous by the FBI in 2023, which is when this show was being filmed. I paid $10 for it. There's a brand new on eBay for $119, so I'm just going to do $100. It keeps our average sale price at that $100 mark. And as I was leaving Vinnie's, this thing was just wrapped up, ready to go for me. I was going to leave it behind. But when Vinnie's does this for me, when they literally wrap it up, I couldn't. It was a VHS player. I paid $20 for it. It was a Samsung. They literally put like Glad wrap all around it. It had the instruction manual, the RCA cables, the power cord, the remote. For $20, like all I needed was the bow. So as I'm leaving, I picked that up. Everything's in really good condition. So I'm not really concerned that it's not going to work. And I couldn't find exact sold listings for this model, but active listings priced it at around the $100 mark. So I tested it out, and unfortunately the remote isn't for this VHS player. Looking at the remote, it seems to be for like a TV VHS combo. And just imagine if I got that instead, that'd be worth a fucking fortune. But yeah, the VHS player works fine. I put it up for $150. It's virtually the same size as last week's LG VHS player that sold for $200. So I'm thinking, why can't I ask for a similar price? There are 2 or 3 other people pricing theirs at $100. I'm literally looking at the listings right now. Somebody had this for $75 with 25 shipping. Another person had it for $99. Both of those with the remote. But I'm like, fuck it. I'm putting it for $150. And spoiler alert, it fucking sold for that too, even with these other listings up with the remotes. So it sold for more money with less features. Like, it fucking blows my mind. We'll talk about that a bit later. But again, in that exact same Vinnie's, It didn't break my $100 threshold, but I know it's going to sell, so I had to buy it. Plus, there was no active listings in Australia, and I like to be the first in something in my life, so I picked it up. It was called World of Warcraft Chronicles of War. Always look out for your World of Warcraft books. The logo is so easy to spot. You obviously get more for the hardcovers, but the paperbacks can still fetch decent money. The overall sell-through rate for it was sitting at 60%. However, once you go locally here in Australia, it triples, and that's because it's hard to get. So I chucked it up on eBay for $80, Marketplace for $50, and spoiler alert, it fucking sold really quickly, but again, we'll talk about that later. Oh, and finally, in the exact same Finnies, man, this was actually a good day. This was a good day. I thought I was in for a huge payday for this next item, but I guess people have caught on. It doesn't matter because it's still cool. Or cool might not be the right word for it. You tell me. It was a pre-9/11 t-shirt. So this is a t-shirt printed in the year 2000, and it features the Twin Towers. I've talked to you before about buying pre-9/11 items if you see them. I've sold snow globes featuring the Twin Towers for hundreds of dollars. I've sold a New York City skyline puzzle for $100, even though it was missing pieces within hours for $100 plus. And it's just proof that people are snapping up this type of shit. Maybe it's a bit different when it comes to t-shirts though. I mean, would you be seen as being insensitive if you wore a shirt in New York City that had the Twin Towers in it? I don't know. I still think it's cool though. I think it's a reminder to you that if you spot New York anything and it looks old, always look for the towers. It's morbid, sure, but it's not worse than going to estate sales or owning items that previously belonged to someone else that is no longer with us. You know, with the amount of scams, the amount of bad things going on in the world, selling pre-9/11 items, it doesn't even fucking register. It's not even a blip on the radar. In terms of pricing, unfortunately not that high, between $50 to $100, but keep an eye out for the other New York City collectibles from before 2001. If you get the right one, you can sell it for hundreds. There's a pre-9/11 Welcome Back 1990s mug that sold for $215. There's a United We Stand 9/11 t-shirt that sold for $300. There's this moving diorama that I saw on eBay. Please look this up on Sold because it's so fucking cool. It's a lit up diorama, right? So you turn this knob on the bottom of it and the background scrolls across. And there's little items on the screen that go from left to right. This thing, when you turn the knob, the background shifts to the left and the towers come into view. And from the other side, a plane flies across the sky. And this is before 9/11. This thing was eerie. It sold for $232. Please go into eBay sold listings and look up pre-9/11 lighted moving diorama, or just look up 9/11 moving diorama. Let me look it up on Google to see if it just shows up if you don't have to go onto eBay. No, it doesn't. You know what? I might just add it to the Flip Weekly newsletter so you can take a look at it there. Just go to flipweekly.com and check it out because it's so unique. I've never seen anything like it before, and it's obviously never going to be made. I haven't seen it again, and it's a very unique piece of pre-9/11 collectibles. Now, finally, we have what is my favorite find of the week. I don't know if I've mentioned before, but I'm in this quest to find a first edition, first printing Dr. Seuss book, ideally with a signature. I'm keeping my head in the children's book section like a fucking creep. If you ever see a dude in the kids' book section that looks like he shouldn't be there, that is me. And the reason why is if you find, for example, a signed Dr. Seuss book, let's say Maybe You Should Fly a Jet, $1,300. If I Ran the Zoo first edition signed, $600. I Can Read With My Eyes Shut signed, $600. Give it time and I will find one. But for now, it's so easy to skip over the modern Dr. Seuss books. Sometimes the older hardcover ones appear, they pop up, they catch my eye. I know that a lot of resellers talk about the banned Dr. Seuss books. I mean, they're not really banned, they were just stopped printing. But they're not worth pursuing. You know, if you hear a reseller talk about the banned books, to go out and buy them, you should ban them from your fucking feed. Because here's the thing. Of the 6 banned books, if we're looking at their last sold price on eBay within Australia, at the time, right now, of talking to you, let's go through them real quick. And to think that I saw it on Mulberry Street, $6.95 last sold price. If I Ran the Zoo, $6.95. McElligot's Pool, $40. Okay, that would be decent for some resellers. I still wouldn't bother picking it up. On Beyond Zebra, $45, but it was a bundle of 6. Scrambled Eggs Super, $5.90, and The Cat's Quizzer for $20. Now, all of those books are now out of print, and I still wouldn't buy them, even though they're the quote-unquote banned books that people talk about. What does it tell you? It's just not worth pursuing. Don't fucking bother with them. The only Dr. Seuss books worth pursuing, unless you're doing massive bundle lots, are the early first edition, first printing books. If we take a look at them, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, first edition, $465. Horton Hears a Who, $572. If I Ran the Zoo, first edition, $620. Dollars. So they're the Dr. Seuss books that you want to be picking up. But here's the thing, and here comes, from rolling over from last week, Hypocrite Matt. I found a Dr. Seuss item this week that is so cool and it breaks the mold, and I found it in the kiddies section, looking like a fucking creep. I spotted it at the very bottom of the shelf, and the spine of this thing, it looked like a folder. All it said was Dr. Seuss Style Guide. And I'm thinking, that doesn't exactly appeal to kids. Like, what's the fucking deal with this? I've never seen this before. I pull it out, I open it up in Savers, and I get some PTSD. Inside of this book, I see brand colors, I see typography choices, margins, graphic choices, graphic elements. They come flying at me like I'm fucking 20 years old again, working in a design agency. And I'm thinking, what the fuck are these brand guidelines for Dr. Seuss? That is so weird. How on earth have they made their way to a thrift store? This is like a 100-page booklet, 100-page fucking binder of Dr. Seuss brand guidelines. And yeah, they're styled guidelines from 2005. These were made only for licensees of the brand. So these were never made for public sale. It's essentially a behind-the-scenes look at Dr. Seuss, or at least the Dr. Seuss branding. There's no active listings, no sold listings. We have to go onto WorthPoint all the way back to 2023 to see anything similar. And again, remind me to cancel my 7-day trial, where one had sold for $175 US, which is about $250. Now, I don't know, who is the potential buyer of this? Is it a Dr. Seuss collector? Is it a brand designer that wants a cool style guide? Regardless, go to the Flip Weekly newsletter at flipweekly.com and just take a look at the pages. You know, I've seen my fair share of brand guidelines. So looking at these Dr. Seuss pages is just such a novelty. It's so fun. There are all these graphic elements of their characters. There's like an entire page dedicated to the Grinch in different posing, and they all have their file names underneath it. So this must have came with a CD or a USB drive at one point in time that coincided with all of the elements. And if you just look at the contents of the book, graphic standards, logo, packaging design elements, do's and don'ts, the Seuss style, then they have all of their evergreen characters starting from, you know, Cindy Lou Who, Thing 1 and Thing 2, the proper way to position these characters, their logos, their graphics. They had thumbnails of all the Dr. Seuss art. They even had the original product approval form at the back of the book not filled in, so I could still fill that in and try and get a fucking Dr. Seuss license. From what I've been able to see, very few of these have ever survived or gone into collectors' hands. So few appear for sale. It's genuinely an unusual piece of Dr. Seuss fucking material that a really serious collector, or who knows, like a fucking museum, I don't know, I think that might be a bit too far, but somebody will be buying this just because of how fucking unique, unusual and weird it is. It's like a corporate reference manual for Dr. Seuss. You need to see the photos of this. Anyway, I listed it up on eBay for $200. We've had plenty of people look at it. Nobody's actually watching it yet, so I don't know how this is going to go. I had to pick it up because it's only $5.50 at Savers. And I guess that's one thing that I like about doing this, is finding the unique, the rare that nobody else has. I think in one way it's why I don't have those consistent sales, is because nobody really has seen this before. so they don't know whether or not they should buy it. But either way, really, really fucking cool. But that is all that I bought for this week. We should move on to what I sold, and there are some fucking good bangers out here. That sounds stupid. Okay. We're just going to roll through them because we've been going on for a while. So the first thing that I sold sort of made me think we went back in time. What year is it? We sold a Funko. We sold a 2017 Funko Troll Hunters Tales of Acadia action figure, 9-inch figure of the character from Troll Hunters. And I guess when you think of Troll Hunters, just think of the name. I've never heard of this before. It was a TV series that ran from 2016 to 2018, created by Guillermo del Toro. Just think, it's called Troll Hunters. Guillermo del Toro. What's the main guy's name? What's this guy's name? Is it something mythical and fantasy related? The guy's name's fucking Jim. Now, this wasn't a recent pickup. It wasn't a quick sale. But apart from my figure, none were available on eBay. 2 have sold in the past 90 days. One for $200 and one for $37. Mine has sold for $149.95. Now, you might be thinking, oh wow, I need to go out and buy some Troll Hunters shit. Look, I was looking at the active and sold listings for the show, and they didn't show anything crazy apart from the art book. And I've talked about art books with you before. You go out and you find the art of, and then you insert whatever. The art of Troll Hunters can sell for between $250 and $350. So you pick that up, yes, but you pick it up because it's the art of, not because it's Troll Hunters. I would hope so, at least. Don't buy anything else that's Troll Hunters. That's nothing worth buying. And just remember, when I say not worth buying, that is with my parameters of keeping my average sale price high. If you find it for 50 cents and you want to sell for $10, you'll probably do okay. And the next sale was something that I was so extremely proud of. I pat myself on the back for this. You'll remember in December, I came across a Facebook Marketplace listing for Garfield Comics. That's what the listing said. Garfield Comics by Jim Davis, Sunday Telegraph 1989 to 1990. This person was selling 38 of these things, said they were all in original and in good condition. He said they're over 30 years old. There's other comic strips included: Louis the Fly, Flash Gordon, Wizard of ID, Torkin the Phantom, and many more. Make me an offer. So I looked at these and I realized they were inserts from the Sunday Telegraph newspaper, and I was intrigued, but it wasn't because of Garfield or any of those comic strips that was mentioned in the description. I looked a bit closer and I could see in the corner that there was the Foot Rot Flats logo. That's very familiar because we've done really well with Foot Rot Flats in the past. I've talked about it before. Go back and listen if you're unfamiliar with it. So what if instead of buying these for Garfield, we buy it for Foot Rot and we offer it up to its fan base? You know, those fan base of Foot Rot Flats, very loyal, and they spend up for their stuff. And what a strategy that was. I paid $150 for these newspapers just over 90 days ago, and they have sold on eBay for $700. $700 for 38 newspapers. The buyer told me the reason he purchased them, and it's really cool. This guy's name was Pete. He's a massive Foot Rot fan. He lives in Tasmania, and he says, and I quote, "I am running a Foot Rot Flats exhibition in the middle of the year. The exhibition is going to be a fundraiser for medical research with nothing in it for us other than sharing Foot Rot Flats. The newspapers are an important part as that's where they were first printed." And look, I know we've sold items before that have been featured in the likes of the Powerhouse collection, but this will be the first time we've sold something that's going to be placed in an actual upcoming exhibit. Look, it's not being put on by the fucking Australian government, but this is still really fucking cool. This is why I love doing this, for these one-off items that are so incredibly rare. And if there's no active listings, no sold listings, that just hypes me up even more. Think outside the box when you're buying this shit, and you can make some good money. No, we're not selling a book for $10. We're not getting a plush and selling it for $15. We're selling shit like this. $700 sale price for a bunch of fucking newspapers. Pat myself on the back for that. Next, not the most exciting sale, but it took less than 12 hours. It validated my pricing strategy. $5 into $80. It was the World of Warcraft book that I talked to you about earlier. I knew it was going to sell quickly because of the sell-through rate. The World of Warcraft books can be hit or miss in terms of value. The sell-through rate you're always going to want to do your research on. And I guess I was lucky enough that this was the only one listed within Australia. The fans just wanted to get their hands on a copy without needing to import it from overseas. And as you can hear, my voice is going a bit because I've been getting too hyped into this fucking sale and pickups for this week, man. We're going to soldier on though. We have a clothing sale. I'm just keeping an eye on the time because I actually have a marketplace pickup that I need to get to. She said to be there by 6. It's 5:40 at the moment. It's about 20 minutes up the road. So I'm just going to get through these quickly because this is going to be a really cool pickup. She actually said to me, I'm buying the thing that I want. And then she said, I actually have another box filled with collectibles related to this. If you want that too, I'll throw them in. And I said, hell yes. And I'm thinking this other box that's been thrown in for free is actually going to be worth more than what I'm actually buying. So I'm excited for that, but I have to be on time, otherwise I might lose it. But anyway, let's power on. We have a clothing sale that wasn't a jersey. I can't remember exactly how much I paid for it from Vinnie's, but I doubt it was any more than $10. It was a 1997 single stitch Friends t-shirt. I started it off at $200 back in the day, and over time I've just brought it down and down and down. It sold for $80. It's a bit of a disappointment considering, you know, it's a 1997 Friends t-shirt. And if you think about when you're in the store and you come across this, you're like, holy shit, this might be, you know, like a hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of sales right here. No, $80. That's not much. Like, we buy and sell jerseys for $100 plus all the time, and this vintage old as fuck single stitch Friends shirt can't even pass 3 figures. Like, that's crazy. No wonder I don't spend much time in the shirts. The next sale is proof that you don't have to match or follow active or sold listings if you know what you're selling. That VHS player from this week has sold for $150. We paid $20 for it. Now, there was literally the exact same model with the remote, priced $50 plus cheaper, still on eBay right now. Still on eBay, yet this sold first. And you can take a guess why that happened, but really at the end of the day, it's just a guess. My theory is, you know, I take an extra 30 seconds, I write up an actual description, I don't use the AI, and I take an extra 3 to 5 minutes and I test it out with a VHS, and I take a photo of the VHS. You know, do whatever you can to differentiate yourselves from other listings. Find a unique selling point. You know, this unit was smaller than others, so I included the fact it was slim, and I included its measurements. Now, I don't know if it's like super fucking slim. There could be other models that are the exact same, but I thought it was slim, so I included that. You know, just find a marketable point. If you have all the cables, include that information. Like, this common sense type shit, but, you know, just try and go that tiny bit extra. The other sale that we had, came in an offer, and you can imagine my hesitancy of accepting offers after we'd dealt with that fucking person with the TV, but this one was for $300. It was a repeat buyer from Canada, so we didn't have any problems with it, and we have sold the knockoff Street Sharks set. This was a toy line called Ocean Warriors. We had 4 of these guys, and whoever made this walked a really fine line of resembling Street Shark characters, because IP laws must have been a bit more lax back in the 90s. These figures would have been bought from your discount shops. They would have been bought by, you know, your grandma who knew you liked the shark toys, but not exactly which ones, right? We've all been on the receiving end of that scenario. You know, supply would be limited because kids would replace these eventually with the toys they actually wanted. But now once they're grown up, they're reminiscing. They have a bit more money, they can spend it. So if you ever come across an action figure or a toy that closely resembles a more mainstream popular character, it's worth looking up, because those old bootlegs and knockoffs can be really, really valuable. So that sold for $300. We still have some Street Sharks left, but they're selling consistently and it's a good category. Very unlikely to find them in a thrift store, but Facebook Marketplace is you go to. Now look, I really have to go because I'm going to a Facebook Marketplace pickup. It's for a really exciting item, only because of this extra box that she says that she has. I already have the cash out. I'm paying $100. I'll tell you more about it next week. But if you want to see photos from anything that I've talked about, go to flipweekly.com. If you're listening on Spotify, give us a review. If you're listening on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you stick around until August, October, when I talk about the biggest flip of all time that I'll never be able to beat again in my life. That's still going ahead. There's progress being made. It's really exciting. I'm creating videos for it. I'm creating written content. I guarantee no other reseller that you watch will have made a flip like this from Facebook Marketplace. I guarantee it. It's that big. I may be hyping it up a bit, but you will see. Anyway, thanks again for listening. I'll see you again next week.
Flip, 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 flip.
Flip Weekly.